It's more of a kind of X Factor meets Dragon's Den, actually. And there'll be a couple of twists. The first twist is that one of the companies, one of the MR Innovators, is unable to be here. They were going to join by Skype, but it turns out we can't find them on Skype, and they're not answering their mobile. So we now have two companies, which means that either we can spend more time or we can do it faster. So we'll probably go somewhere in the middle. That also allows perhaps those innovators who are going to be pitching in this X Factor environment to the Dragon's Den judges, perhaps gives them a little bit more time to either be questioned or to expand upon their business ideas. So I say X Factor meets Dragon's Den. We have three, I guess four if you include me, but three main judges. Now, they all wanted to play the Simon Cowell role, who isn't on Dragon's Den, of course. But that's what they all wanted. But I'll introduce them, and then basically the format is that we will have our first company pitch for up to 10 minutes. We'll then have a little bit of critique and Q&A from the judges. We will also be monitoring on Twitter. If you've got any questions, submit them there. And then depending again on the timing, we may open it up to the floor at that point, or we may come back to that at the end. Couple of additional twists that we're going to add in, because we've now got the time and we can be a bit agile with our planning, is we're going to do some fictional audience investment activity. So we're going to use the app that Richard Taylor from Lumi mentioned earlier, the Me Too app. We're going to ask you if you want to pose any comments or questions, you can do that. We're also going to ask you at the end, if you had $1 million, how would you invest it? Would you give $1 million to one of the companies? Would you split it? In which case, what sort of split? Or would you just keep the money for yourselves? So we'll be going to be asking you for that kind of instinct. We'll also be asking the judges. Now, one of the three has got a real £100,000. The other two have got a fictional £100,000. They can choose to invest or not invest. It's up to them, but we're going to be asking them how they would spend their money. And then if you work out which one's really got the money and maybe that person can make a deal, that will be a private deal that we will all be witness to the germination of it. So that would be a bit of fun. But let's get on with introducing the judges. The judges have got their biographies in the program, so I won't go through in detail about who they are. But I asked them if they could have a piece of music to walk onto, what would they choose which best represents them? So we'll have the first piece of music for the first judge, who is Linus. So you've probably worked out how Linus likes to project himself and the kind of personality that he will bring to this panel. So Linus, the details in the program, but you'll see he's an early stage VC. The next judge to introduce is Paul Roberts. I'm sure you all got that reference too, so that's great. And then the final judge, who we're going to introduce with his own choice of music, is Phil Rance. From now on, you can call him Phil or you can call him Heidi. He's very brave. So that's our three judges. As I say, we'll be taking a 10-minute pitch. Then they will be able to do a little bit of critique and Q&A. We may take some questions from the audience. And towards the end, we'll be asking them how they would invest that money. And we'd also be asking you how you would invest that as an audience. So we'll kick off. I think we're going to have Daniel first. That's great. So please join me in welcoming on the stage Daniel from Tomoko.
Thanks very much. Okay. Thanks very much for the billing to live up to. I didn't realise that music was an option, or I would have requested some to join in. Got Guys, thanks very much for the opportunity today. I feel a little bit like I'm in the wrong kind of place. So normally I'm pitching to people about what we do in terms of mobile, and there's lots of mobile experts out there, and some of the stuff I'm talking about is what those in the mobile world are strangely obsessed by. So stick with me and shout if I'm speaking a foreign language. The other reason why I'm slightly concerned is because what I spend a lot of my time saying to the guys in mobile is that you guys, the guys who are interested in insight, research, and analytics, are really, really excited about the power of what we do, and that's why the guys in mobile should be focusing on this stuff. So now, hopefully, the chance to be validated in that belief. So who are we? What do we do? Why are we here? We're a proximity engagement platform or marketing platform. We're all about using location, but other context as well to connect consumers to the right place, the right destination, the right content. Our vision is around, believe it or not, we're a tech business, but our vision is around starting with the consumer. We've seen an awful lot of tech businesses, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with them too, who have got great technology. It's amazing in terms of the data and the insight you can gather, but the customer experience somewhat lets things down. So that's something that's absolutely core to us at Tomoko. And in terms of our technology, some of this stuff is kind of been around for a little while. Some of this stuff is very much new, but what we see is that it's now reached the point where things like beacons, things like Wi-Fi as an indicator of location, things like NFC, whatever that acronym may be, are now at the stage where they have critical mass, where they have enough audience and enough people out there with the relevant devices to really be something meaningful for brands to engage with. Okay, so first of all, just so I get a sense of where I am in terms of knowledge, beacons. Everyone familiar with beacons? Could I get a rough show of hands? Oh, yeah, okay. You guys would be fine to do this instead of me. Just to bring to life a possible customer journey, so you understand what the consumer experience might be. It could be that you walk into a retail environment. It could be that you walk into a stadium. It could be that you've engaged with a piece of print media, maybe a magazine. And at that point, when you've engaged, whether you've hit a particular location object or whether you've chosen to reach out your smartphone and engage with something, you can then be connected to something. Well, that's fantastic, and there's a lot of people talking about doing this. But we think the real power goes beyond connecting to something and connecting to something that's hyper-relevant for that person at that moment, at that point in time. So one of the first things we tend to say is it's not just about giving discount vouchers to people who happen to walk into your store. Of course, I've now got an illustration, which is giving a discount voucher to somebody who's happened to walk into the store. But I guess the example makes it relatively straightforward to understand the experience. So because I'm here right now, I'm interested in this kind of product. I have a proposition to purchase. If a notification pops up on my smartphone screen from a brand that I trust and is relevant for me that says, you know what, if you do decide to buy and transact today, here's a voucher redeemable right now at the till. And yes, we've seen the evidence. Guess what? That does indeed drive the uplift you might expect in terms of consumer purchase, preference to purchase, and ongoing brand engagement. Okay, so that's the kind of experience we're talking about. Making sense so far? Some nodding. Excellent. So great. So that's happening. Of course, this then gives you real-time insight. So the ability in the moment to understand what's happening. Is this message working? Is this attractive for people? Is it completely wrong? Can we A/B test? Can we A/B test in one store? Can we A/B test across multiple stores? Can we try different segments of consumer to see how they react to that? And then the ability to change that on the fly in real time. So if the experience wasn't working 10 minutes ago, it can be working now. I don't propose to spend a lot of time talking about technologies. There's a lot of acronyms here. I think the important point is, for us as a business, is not to be wedded to one technology. So you will find people telling you it's all about beacons. Other people say, no, it's all about Wi-Fi. And other people say, actually, you don't need any of that. Just use geofences. And the reality is, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, who you're trying to reach, and what kind of experience you're trying to deliver. So our view is, we'll use anything we can. Right now, these are the 5 technologies that are relevant, but there's some fascinating stuff going on with pulsed LED signals from lights, sound, both audible and inaudible, and I don't know, probably Samsung will put a smell detector and you can figure out whether you're in Starbucks or Cafe Nero by the smell signature, or maybe not. So who do we bring together to make all of this happen? Brands and advertisers, of course, the people who wish to engage with the consumer, but not always necessarily through their own communications, their own real estate. So there needs to be a range of people involved to make all of this work. But what's in it for the brands? Fantastic opportunity to influence purchase decision right at the critical moment, whether that's someone engaging with a piece of your media or whether that's someone in the store. Then, of course, the other piece of this is where do you place these location objects? Where do you place beacons? Which Wi-Fi networks are interesting? And of course, doing this all with the explicit consent of the people who own those locations and manage those locations. So for us as a business, this is not about going out guerrilla style and mapping Wi-Fi networks and saying, hey, great, we've figured out where this person is. Now let's do something with that data. But this is absolutely about doing it with the explicit consent, permission, and indeed enthusiasm of the retailers and the property owners and the stadium owners, etc., who are deploying the beacons, have already invested in Wi-Fi infrastructure, etc. But again, the benefit for them, once more, real-time insight and data into what's happening in their environment in a way previously not possible. Then the third piece of the jigsaw that we need to bring together is somewhere to reach these consumers. So apps, typically we're being focused around who are the right people, what's the right place. You know, I don't want a notification from some app about some great product offer that I think, why are you giving that to me? That's not the behavior I'd expect from this app. And in fact, I find that intrusive and a bit weird, and I might just uninstall the app. So one of the things that we've seen is, great, we can work with brands who have their own app, but many don't, or many don't that have significant enough reach for that to be meaningful. So then how do we solve that problem? It's about finding the right places. So people like mobile wallet providers, mobile loyalty applications, couponing and vouchering applications, media owners to a certain extent, et cetera, et cetera. But let's find the right apps and make it really easy for those publishers to put this experience in place. First of all, as a benefit for their consumers, which is going to drive increasing engagement with their apps, and secondly, as a potential incremental revenue opportunity. So all of this is great in principle, but let's talk about some real-life scenarios. So we've worked with people who are mobile first, an app is absolutely at the core of their business, and looking at how we can do things, I'll come on to some examples in a moment, that really increase engagement in the moment. We've worked with some big brands to enable print media. So for the first time, not only can you drive people to do things like download an app, but then you can use that to track the success of that advertising campaign right the way through to the dealership. So great, now they've got the app, they downloaded it from this piece of media. Did they then go on to test drive? Did they then go on to purchase? And how can we then track that consumer through that whole experience? And then last but not least, some of the examples I've talked about, mobile wallet apps, and combining that with a multi-category retail experience. So does this work? What are the benefits? That's a chart that's probably almost impossible to see from the far corners of the room. So the story here is that the green line is all about engagement, moving from single figures to double figures. What did we do? It was about personalization and about relevance. It was about, in this case, putting the specific name of the venue that the customer was in into that notification that pops up on their smartphone so that they know this is for me right now. I'm going to choose to engage with that. And then what we're looking to do is to build on that with further data sources, more insight, so you effectively reach the wonderful moment of having a one-on-one marketing engagement, so really delivering a personalized communication to that individual. Okay, so with scant regard for time, I haven't heard lots of shouting to stop, so hoping there's a minute or so left. But what's this all about? It's about understanding the consumer, building a rich picture of the consumer in the physical world, and connecting that with that information and insight we have about consumers in the digital world already. It's about absolutely precisely matching that consumer at that point with their intent, with the understanding of who they are, with their previous behavioral information, bringing all of that together and in real time delivering them the right experience for that consumer. And last but not least, It's about delighting the customer, the bit that so often gets forgotten as everyone's getting really excited about how you can measure and how you can understand and how you can get customers to redeem something. But let's start with the proposition being beneficial for the consumer, giving them something. Then I think the rest of us really see the value out of that. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And just a reminder, if you have some questions or some comments, feel free to pop them into either Twitter or into the Me Too app using the same login credentials as earlier. Before we just pass on to the judges to critique and question, can you just give us a sense of what stage your business is at?
Yep, so we've been trading for coming up to 3 years. I joined the business about 2.5 years ago, just at the point where we really had an MVP ready to take to market. So we've been commercializing this actively in the marketplace for the last couple of years. And we took a seed round in last year. So we will probably, because of the nature of this space, be looking at more funding because it is growing super fast. It's super interesting for a whole lot of people at this stage. We trade out of the UK with our tech office in Seattle. Customers are global. We don't just work in London. Our customers are global brands, and they expect their tech platform to go wherever their customers are.
Okay, thank you. Can we go on to Linus?
Thanks, Daniel. First question, obviously, for me would be sort of on when you work with large brands, do you go via agencies? Is it an exchange? How scalable is this?
Yeah, so the reality is we talk to brands directly and we work with agencies, and that may be a conversation that starts with a brand but then engages the agency or vice versa. And the exchange piece is a very interesting point to make, because what we see, and what I kind of alluded to at a very high level there, is that we're building a platform that enables all of these parties to come together. So for example, as a retailer, I can say, these guys retail product in my store, so I'm happy for them to communicate with my customers. These guys don't. So given I don't range their products, I certainly don't expect them to be communicating with my customers in my stores. So enabling that matching experience, and frankly, we started out doing it very manually. Would you be okay if this campaign runs in your store? Yes, great, okay. Yes, these guys are okay. Can we use your app for the distribution? And we're in the process of, part of scaling for us is automating that process and making it seamless.
This is my sense is this is quite a crowded space, as in there's a lot of it about. Who are your main competitors, and how are you differentiated from them?
So our sense is it's superficially it's extremely busy and we have a lot of competitors. But when you drill down to who's going beyond either being very wedded to a technology, so maybe somebody like a Swirl who's all around beacons, or somebody who's I don't know, who's doing many things of which this is part. So I guess in the UK you might point to somebody like a Proxama, but they also build apps and they do mobile payments. What I would say from our point of view is that there's 2 points of differentiation. One is we're completely neutral. We're agnostic to platform and technology, and we think that's vitally important. And the other piece is we're around bringing together all of those data points in real time to make sure that it is that one-to-one communication. And our sense in everything we've seen is there's no one else who's really there in this space about saying it's not just about because I've hit a beacon I'm going to get a message, but actually it's about Daniel will have a different message from Linus, will have a different message from... This is all about building that vision of, because I was browsing on the website for travel offers yesterday, when I walk into John Lewis, I might be interested in swimwear, whereas a day later somebody else, because of different purchase signals, intent, data you gather, completely different message is relevant for them. And possibly the last bit that we think is super important, sometimes the really important thing is not to put any message in front of someone. So how can you avoid cheesing someone off by putting in front of something that's really not relevant and they're going to have a really bad reaction to?
So from my side, I mean, I get the whole kind of marketing stuff and how agencies and particularly large brands will get kind of super excited. So the bit I'm having difficulty with is understanding the context of all that data and how, you know, if you look at it from a research perspective, how that whole kind of comes together and fits in. You know, if you're picking up money from this room, it's that, where does market research fit in this, particularly given the level of data you're collecting and the kind of depth at an individual level as well?
Yeah, our sense is, look, we're diving into a lot of depth at the point where somebody comes in contact with a brand in a physical location or with a physical object. So that's fantastic insight, but it's not in their whole experience. So that's rich data in one aspect of that consumer's life. But what, of course, is really powerful is how you then bring that together with all of the insight you have from surveys, from macro data, from transaction data. And you know, what all of these guys here are expert in clearly is bringing together multiple data points to really create that customer, you know, that 360 customer view. We see ourselves as a piece of that. You know, absolutely not the answer to it. So it's a tool. It's a tool for understanding customers better and then bringing that together with other data and insight. And it's also a route for, you know, communicating with the customer. So, you know, if there are gaps in who are our customers, why is it that we see these guys and they tell us this about the brand and they respond really well, and, you know, these are the guys who transact, they don't match up. We've got a gap. How do we fill in some of those missing pieces of information? Yeah, that's what we think is really exciting. And you know, it's only just starting to happen. So, you know, our sense is that this is a real opportunity now for the research and insight community to kind of leverage this kind of platform.
We have a question that's come through the Me Too app anonymously. It's a classic Dragon's Den kind of question. What's your revenue today and what does it look like moving forward?
Yeah, I should have got the authorization to speak publicly about that, but I haven't. So I can't share stats on where we are with revenue right now.
Okay. We also have another question from the floor. Maybe you want to ask it yourself. It's from Ivo or Evo.
Use probably the revenue question as well.
Thanks. I have a bit of experience talking to clients about beacons, location-based services for market research. One of the things that I encounter is that, first of all, the people I talk to, who are most often researchers on the client side, don't have access to the colleagues building the apps. That's something within communications or marketing. So how do you get into, as a market researcher, how do you get into the app? And second of all, once I talk about interacting with people, for example, in stores and getting feedback from customers in a store, they sort of get scared because if you ask for feedback, then you need to close the loop. And if you have a beacon or location sensor in every store, then the pure amount of feedback from customers in your store will increase exponentially, and well, they are troubled enough to close the loop as is.
Yeah. So in terms of the first one's easy to answer. The second one is a bit more challenging. So in terms of how do you get access, our whole approach has been to basically to provide an SDK that makes it super simple for brands to enable their app, and then everything that the customer experiences is controlled via the cloud. Okay, so that means whether you want that experience to be a coupon or a customer survey, that's all controllable via the cloud. So that makes it really, really simple to deliver new content and experiences into the consumer because it can be literally updated in real time. Actually, 1 in 10 notifications for customer segment A, 9 are going to get an offer, and the 10th is going to get a question about what they would like, what their experience has been. So, yeah, that's very, very straightforward to implement. In terms of the piece around, it sounds to me like there's two questions, is at what point is it too much for the consumer in general to have notifications coming at them, and at what point is it too much from a market insight and survey data point of view? And there isn't a nice, neat formula, but essentially it's there's a scales between value to consumer and benefit to brand, and if you get that out of kilter, then yeah, this is intrusive. Stop notifying me. I don't want to hear from you. But if the value feels like the value exchange feels right and balanced to the consumer, then it's not a problem to put that notification in front of them and that content in front of them. I look forward to the challenge where there's so much engagement that you're saying, you know what, we'll stop asking 50, 80, 95% of the consumers who are eligible because we've got more data than we can manage. Does that answer the question?
We just have one additional question that's come through Me Too.
Oh, top one. What's to stop Google or Apple doing some of this? What's to stop anyone building technology, I guess, is ultimately the answer. There's always a risk that somebody will try and do this. I think from what we've seen in terms of the big players in this space, they're building a platform and an ecosystem. They expect other people to layer value over the top of it. They don't expect to own the whole thing end to end. Maybe one day I'll be proven wrong as we're acquired for a multi-billion exit, but then I'm dreaming again.
Great, thank you.
I actually have a follow-on to that, which is, what do you think your exit is?
It's I guess it's many of the plausible options. So yeah, is that somebody around tech? Is that somebody around ad tech who's bleeding into the physical space? Is that so a strategic investor acquiring? Those feel like the most likely outcomes. And yes, that could be someone big based in the Bay Area who's in this space, who's building out a portfolio of tools. And it could, of course, be the media and marketing agency world, I guess some of whom are present here today, some of those big agency groups that might feel that this is a relevant piece of the portfolio.
That's great, thank you. And any sort of closing comments from Linus or Paul?
I can ask a final one. So what is the one thing that keeps you up at night? If you could solve one thing, ask anyone in here to help you out with one thing for Tomoko, what would it be?
That's a great question. And I guess the answer of my daughter isn't really...
For Tomoko.
For Tomoko, yeah, okay. So I think for us, what's the piece that's missing? To be honest, I think the thing I'd love to come away from here today with is people really pushing what we do. Actually, in some ways, we've kind of built all this amazing capability, and then we go, look, you could do all of this really clever stuff, and then people say, that's great, but should we just start by giving people 20% off when they come into the store? So, using the collective intelligence and experience in this room to really push the envelope and do some really clever stuff and really start pushing towards, the vision that we have of each person gets a marketing message tailored for them, relevant to who they are right now, really leveraging the power of all of this data that's out there. That would be the thing that, I don't know whether it keeps me awake at night as I worry about it, or I just get strangely excited about it. But that keep you up at night. That it can, yeah.
Okay, Daniel, thank you. He will come back up right at the end when we have a few more questions, but for now, thanks very much. Takes a lot of courage to come up here and be exposed to some of these questions, even just when you've got to say, I'm not prepared to tell you what our revenues are, etc. So kudos to both of you. And with that, please join me in welcoming Sander.
Thank you for, is it on? Yeah. Thank you for inviting me here to pitch ContextMap, our software platform. We deliver software as a service to qualitative market research agencies. And we are doing that now for 3 years. We are building the software for 3 years. We commercialized it 1.5 years ago. And I'm the CEO. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the power of visualization and the mapping of the context. We believe, and we have the goal as ContextMap, that is very elementary for getting the customer insight to map the context in the fullest. And to do that, the best way to do that is by a mobile phone. So our goal is that you all go more mobile. And especially for customer diaries and customer journeys. It's a perfect platform to use. We have a mobile app. Everybody has a smartphone, Android, iOS, it's available. So you can get in your pocket of your customer very easy. Next to me in the board is Robert-Jan van Oeveren. He's sitting here, the blonde guy, and he's the founder. I myself have a background in mobile. I founded a couple of telecom and fiber service companies in the Netherlands. I sold to them a couple of years ago, and I was graduated as a business administration student. I already did research about co-creation 10 years ago. And then I met Robert-Jan. He has a background in service design. He's an entrepreneur for 10 years. And both we believe in the strength of mobile, and we would like to get that enthusiasm to use more mobile in the research branch. So we are located in Amsterdam. And to give you some examples of studies we did with our clients, our happy partners. Blauw is one of our happy partners. Thank you for being here, Ivo. And this is, for example, a customer diary. This was in a kitchen. This is not making graphically done by a nice graphic design agency, but just from our dashboard. You can see what's happening in the kitchen of your customer because you're looking over his shoulder with his mobile phone, and you can capture the insights in the moment, on the spot where it's happening. So you can get some really good insights to make your products even better. Another example is a partner of us, Ruigrok Netpanel. They did a customer journey. They forced people driving cars to use the public transport for 1 week, and they thought they would hate it because that was the selection criteria for those participants, and they got some really good insights that sometimes it totally was the contrary. I did it one day here in London in the morning. It was a rat race, so probably it wouldn't work here in the morning in London, but in the Netherlands they got some really good insights. The platform of Context Map gives a really good insight at a moment of what is happening, and you can invite your participants by push notification based on time or on location, so on where they are using the service, and question them at that moment to make a video, an audio file, a questionnaire, or things like that. And you get it immediately on your online dashboard. So the researcher gets an online dashboard, and he gets to see immediately that feedback. So he can visualize it, he can analyze it, and he can even interact with the participant on specific questions by lettering. So we see some major shifts in market research, and with our platform we try to help our customers to go with this shift. So it's all about emotion. For example, if a customer is shaving his beard, and at that day you're going to make a questionnaire, but at that day he raises himself not in the right way, so he's bleeding. And you ask him about the usage of the Gillette at that day. Probably it will be a totally different outcome than that you do it in a different day where he has no problems at all. So in the context of using that product, you can get emotion, and you can also get, by your mobile, you can more observe it. So we also don't talk about respondents, we talk about participants. So we see that normally traditional researchers are on one time. You try to get the best insight you can by a mobile survey or by an online survey or whatever. And then you're going to launch a product. But product development is going in a much faster and faster pace. So we think it's very important to measure the behavior of a customer on more moments during that process. So you get more insights, you can explore new ideas, you can improve the product and the service together with your customers. So you're going more from research to co-creation. So as I told you before, it's more the typical studies done over our platform are diary studies, customer journeys, but also for store visits, of course, you can use it very well. Co-creation projects. We have a mobile forum available, so you can participants can make topics if you allow them to. You can do that themselves, of course, yourself as well. You can prioritize topics, things like that, so you can deepen your insights, what you got from the mobile survey. These are some of our happy partners in the Netherlands, in Europe, but our app is worldwide available and also in every language you would like to have. Now it's in English, Dutch, and Spanish. But it's very easy to expand it, and we are busy with that. So what's next? Because this is done also by some of you in the audience. So we think a lot of things are going to help us even to get better and deeper customer insights. Smartwatches, for example, can measure heartbeat. You have health patches which can measure heartbeat, blood pressure, acceleration, temperature. So if we could generate that data, and we can make a good mix of it and analyze it in a good way, we can measure emotion. And at that moment, that emotion is if someone is angry, then we could send a push notification, and we can ask, why are you angry? What's happening? And we can also use open data. Open data, European Union, FIWARE, there are a lot of programs now available where we can use relevant data for specific researchers. So if we mix that data together, that passive data, together with active data, then we can get some really good insights. So an example is we can show a video, and we can measure with eye tracking, for example, what the emotion is of someone, and we can combine that with the research project, what we got insights by answers they are giving by the mobile app. But we could also make a customer journey mapping, very easy. We can make a red road paths where someone has an emotion of afraidness or is angry. And we could even make, we could even aggregate that data and make heat maps. So we could see in what areas of the city, or if you're doing restaurant survey about the restaurants in the city, where people are not happy and where they are happy. And they can talk with each other about what problems there are and also what solutions there could be given. So this is what we are building now. We are developing a lot. We got some nice subsidies also from governmental institutes to explore these ideas. We also have our clients that are the best investors, of course. They are very happy. They perform studies with us, so we can invest in their studies for the future. And we think we are the best partner for doing that. We have a lot of experience in setting up enterprises, setting up strategic partnerships. So we are very eager to partner with strategic partners who could help us to explore these possibilities. And for you as an audience here, we have a very open model. You can get a free trial account on our website, so you can check it out, what we offer. And as a special promotion, we have 25% discount on credits you can buy with us. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Sander. Let's kick off with the judges, maybe with Heidi. Do stay up, Sander.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the wrong panel. Heidi is not my favorite piece of music, just to confirm. Thank you, Dan. So I think that's a really neat pitch. I think it's nice that you gave us your track record. I think if I was a client and doing qualitative research, that I'd be interested in the free trial. As an investor, though, it feels like, as an opportunity, it's maybe a bit small. So just pitch me the business for a second.
Okay. Yeah, customer journey and mobile diaries are, in qualitative market research, are huge. I think it's around, in total, we figured out it is about 50 million euros right now, but we think it will be much, much bigger because mobile is growing faster and faster, and the qualitative part of that will be bigger as well. I think also we are now always busy with the conscious part. So we ask to our customers what they think about it, and we evaluate it on a scale. But the subconscious part is much more important, and the context, the context of the participant is also very relevant. So we think with this platform, with this mobile app, and in combination with the expansion of wearables and open data, you can understand and predict much better the behavior. So the market of now, let's say 50 million, will be growing in a much faster pace. So we think it's about the market of 200 million. And by investing in a fast pace, we think we can be ahead of our competitors in this field. We have a very strict focus on that, and that's why we think you can make good money with it.
Okay, so follow up to that question. Let's assume it's a big and growing market, and the product's good and scalable, so sell more of it, and your incremental cost is not going up. So what is your sales and marketing model? How are you going to win, other than coming to conferences like this? How are you going to win customers at scale?
Okay, as we do now, we just give you our software free. You can choose it for yourself. Most clients, without any physical interference, become a client, a paid client, and we can scale it up worldwide. Our app is available worldwide, and we give them normally a half-hour demo online. And because we are not going to sit on the chair of you as a specialist in doing mobile diaries. Our software speaks for itself, so you don't need the consultants of the software developer. So we think it's a very straightforward and easy model, and that's why we think it's scalable as well. And of course, we are going to work with partners, as we do now, but in the United States, for example, who have a very good settlement there. And that's how we can scale it more in a marketing and sales way. And of course, to be present at some of the events like here.
Very good, thank you.
So as a consumer, I'm going to have to take it back a little bit. As a consumer, I need to download the app, right?
Yes.
And then the brands want to make me do these, for example, customer journeys and stories.
Yes.
Okay. Number one, what's the incentive for them to do it? Number two, how do you ensure that the input they do, if it's, let's say it's the kitchen diary that you had, that it's actually relevant of any kind? Like one of the photos there looked like, what are you going to do with that? Like, so how do you, those two, let's start there.
Thank you, good questions. First of all, the participants, we don't have panels. I think today we also saw that some panels don't always give the most representative view. No. But I mean, a panel, you want to measure, you want to know what's happening when you are using the product and not afterwards. So the participant is chosen by our clients, and our clients are the market agencies, so they sometimes use a panel and they buy it, or they lease participants, and they invite them to use our app. We have a 98% participant grade, so it's really huge.
But they get paid, I assume that.
Sometimes they get paid, but sometimes they don't get paid because they are fans of a restaurant, for example, McDonald's or Coca-Cola, and they really...
Is that not biased?
Sorry?
Then it's pretty biased.
Yeah, but sometimes if you have participants who are biased, but they are really willing to help your product becoming better, what's your goal? Sometimes it helps you to reach your goal together with your biased participants who are in favor of your brand. So it depends on what you want. If you have high involvement products, like pharmaceutical products, what are already tested well, but then you want to use and you want to see how it's used, those people, if you give them feedback after you did the project and about their usage and how it was compared to others, they really want to be involved, and they don't have to be paid. And they give the best videos, photos, and other data. So it depends on the study. The second question, it's about the
quality.
the quality. Because the researcher sees at the moment you have uploaded a video, he can see it. And he can track all the participants and what participants are involved and what are not. If a participant in particular is making videos it's nothing all about, he can just erase that participant to make another assignment, for example. But he can also tag. So we have a very graphically rich dashboard where the client, or the researcher, can tag the videos and photo. So he can put red tags on the videos what are not relevant. Or he can tag on all videos what are representing summer. I mean, he can schedule summer. And he could make a very easy video file from all the summer videos. So, okay.
So in that context then, when I did my first Ethno mobile startup about 3.5, 4 years ago, so it's kind of interesting to start here looking at another one. So what's different about what you guys do then? And because there's no doubt in this room got a few other people who claim to do kind of mobile ethnography and diaries and those kind of things. So what's different? So why do clients buy from you now and kind of not them?
Yeah. What's different, I think, because we didn't have any investment and any legacy in online or in qualitative or in other things, we could totally focus on qualitative customer journeys, customer diaries, store visit, things like that. So I think our focus is very important. So it's why clients choose for us, because we have low barriers. So that's a very easy one. We are very easy to use. It's very user-friendly for the participants. We have a very high grade of participation, and they participate fully until the end. They can also see their own visuals, and together they can talk about it. And if you give feedback to your participants, you get the best. I think if you ask all of our customers why they are so satisfied, it's because their clients were so satisfied they could make segments because of the study. And they are not big studies. Most studies are done in 50 participants maybe, but they get really good insights, and that's why they choose for us. And of course, there are more platforms, but you have to be the best.
Sander, thank you very much for that. We're a little bit time sensitive, so we'll finish up the questions for you now. But please stay on the stage. A big round of applause. Thank you. And Daniel, if you could join us also. We're going to do a couple of fun things now, hopefully. We're going to ask the judges how they would invest their money. And we've got a complicated grid for them. We're also going to ask the audience, the question will appear in the Me Too app in a moment. If you had $1 million to invest, how would you invest it? And I think that I might be the only one that sees results, or maybe you all will, but we'll find that out shortly. But then a question to the two of you. If you could choose one of the panel to work with you, free, to offer their wisdom, their advice, access to their resources, then have a think who you would choose, and we'll ask you that before, well, actually, we'll ask you to reveal that after they've made their decision of how they would invest. But that should also give us an indication of what kind of advice or support you would be looking at, given the stage of your business. And then we'll announce all those results and hopefully have some laughs and fun. So at that point, let's publish the poll. You two start thinking. We have a countdown clock, and I'll pass over this grid. Oh, that was fun. So we have some results. We hopefully have some more here. That's good. Could you do the maths for us, please, or one of you? But in the meantime, I'll go to Sander first. If you're in this virtual fictional world that we've created, if you're able to choose one of these judges to work with you, who would you choose?
It's a very difficult question because I don't know you three at all. So I did some things like that in the past, and it takes some time. But Paul did already some ethnographic things, and I think if I have to answer, then Paul will be my first choice, but I don't know, maybe...
That's great, thank you. Well done, Paul.
Thank you.
And Daniel?
Yeah, so look, I have to hold my hands up here and say, guys, I don't know enough about your businesses to be making an informed choice. I guess, look, for us, if I put out our list of requirements, it's about really understanding the scaling tech businesses in the brand and agency space, and I think that's the bit that we're really interested in, is people who had tech experience previously within the practice. We're not really ad tech, but kind of, or around that big data and insight, and melding those two things together. So it's I'd have to
nominate ourselves.
So I'm making an appeal for an advert.
So that's another to Paul. Well done, Paul. So in a moment we'll reveal these results. I should also give the judges a plug too. As I said at the start, they are all very active in this space, and they're all in kind of investing and advising mode. So as well as the people on the stage, the rest of you, if you want to pick their brains, get some wisdom, engage with them professionally, feel free. They're up for that, particularly over coffee and beer. But in the meantime, let's reveal how the audience voted. We do. So the audience results, Sander, you just edged it, so well done. If this audience was investing, you would have just snuck that in. And then I think just to prove the point, the result was reversed the other way. So you can decide yourselves whether the experts are everybody in the room or the experts are these three on the stage. So I guess that's a split decision. So a big thank you to everyone. Big thank you to the two of you, very brave. Big thanks to all the judges. And let's go on to our next session. Thank you all.
Thank you.